On this episode of Hashtag This and That, I will be interviewing two college graduates, Sullivan and Daria Coney, on their journey and struggles of finding a job in their respective field.
Feel that most managers can see that they can kind of take the good qualities and mold you into what they need in the company.
I think also women just are very held back in that front where, you know, people think that certain jobs are for men and you have to show yourself and prove yourself.
Hashtag This and That is a show dedicated to covering a diversity of topics important to women from the perspective and experience of fellow women. Our goal is to give the inside scoop to help and educate women on issues relevant to our daily lives. Thank you for joining us on Woman to Woman TV for this segment of This and That. I'm your host, Karina LaFries. Today, we're going to be talking about the difficulties of recent graduates trying to find jobs in their field. I'm a recent graduate myself of St. John's University. I have a bachelor's degree in broadcast journalism and a master's degree in sociology. I found that when I apply for jobs, they either say I don't have enough experience or they think I'm overqualified because of my master's degree. We're going to be talking to two guests today that are recent graduates going through the process of trying to find jobs in their field. My first guest, Sullivan, today. How are you doing?
Great, how are you?
Very well. Please tell me about yourself.
Okay. I graduated from Wheeling Jesuit University. I graduated with a BA in criminal justice and I have minors in psychology and international studies.
Great. So what kind of experiences did you gather or internships when you were at school?
In school, I had an internship with the Community Foundation for the Ohio Valley. Our main focus was with a small group of youth and having them build philanthropy? Why can't I say that word? And having them have like a small board where they're able to be involved with that with the community with like adults. So that was really interesting to be a part of that. And they were during a process of revamp, so I helped a lot with that as well because it was right when I came in. And then post-graduation, I had an internship with Intercom Ireland. It was in Belfast. And I was able to work, I was the only one from my school, and then was a group of other kids, and we worked with a bunch of different organizations through Intercom Ireland while they focused on like community building with peace and conflict resolution over in Belfast.
Okay, great. And so what jobs were you planning to apply for, or did you apply for after graduation?
I wanted to go back to school for grad school, which I did. I started getting my master's in criminal justice. It's on pause for the moment, but I wanted to work for the government initially, and then I also, after my Intercom Ireland internship, I wanted to work with peace and conflict resolution. So I'm working towards gearing myself towards that because I don't have a lot of experience with it. And so it's kind of hard without a degree to be able to do that since I don't live overseas or really have, aside from the internship, any experience with it.
Okay, so how did you find that the internships that you did while you were at school and the one right after have helped you in terms of applying? Do you think they have?
I think to a degree they have because at least for the one in Belfast, not too many people have that internship that I'm aware of, at least for where I've applied. So it's always been like a good question where people have asked me about it and I can ramble on forever about that internship because I absolutely loved it. So I feel like it kind of makes me stand out a little bit. And then also, but a lot of the jobs where I've applied to post-graduation, they weren't per se relating to it, but it is kind of a good eye catcher. So it's a take and leave kind of situation where it helps, but indirectly.
Okay, so what jobs have you been doing since you've put the graduate on hold and everything like that? What have you been trying to do in order to kind of like further your career?
To be honest, the career has been a little bit on hold. I've basically been trying to find a position to help me sustain, and then when I have that, I've been trying to beef up my resume and adjust that and update it with all my work experience, and then from there I'm going to hopefully be able to kickstart my career or get my foot in the door somewhere and kind of go from there because I have a lot of job experience. It's just not directly related to my field.
Okay, I understand. So what have you found when going on interviews with possible employers that they say either about your resume or that they're looking for in candidates?
Okay. Usually they like my like the loyalty, because a lot of the positions I've had for years, and the experience I've gained through each position has been beneficial, and we kind of discussed that and how it will relate to the position that I'm trying to get.
Basically, what I'm trying to find out is when you go, because you said that your specific career path has kind of been put on a little bit of a hold right now. So when you go and you're interviewing for these positions, do you find it difficult to try and get your foot in the door in them? Have you been turned away a lot?
For the positions that I really want, it is harder. For the ones where I can see myself starting low and evolving, it's easier because you have a general experience, and I feel that most managers can see that they can kind of take the good qualities and mold you into what they need in the company. So I think when people are hiring, that's what they kind of gear towards, is seeing if they can take what you offer and shape it into what they want.
Okay, so what's the dream job for you?
To be at the UN. I would really like to work there, or to work in more of a grassroots organization that's geared towards like international conflict resolution.
Okay, and have you spoken to anyone or gone on any interviews in order to go down that path, or are you waiting until you obtain your master's?
I'm just starting to, because unfortunately a lot of the positions I want offer it, they require the master's, but I'm hoping I can finagle into a company with my experience and open the doors to hopefully a position that I would like to make a career out of.
Overall, would you say it's been difficult to try and get a job, at least even in your field, since graduation?
I think it depends where you live, because I'm from Cleveland, and so the majority of the positions that I wanted weren't readily available in Cleveland, and it's one of the reasons why I moved to New York.
So do you have any advice for people who are graduating or maybe just graduated in terms of trying to find jobs? I
would say to just keep working with it, take what you have and use it to your advantage, and to if you apply to like 100 jobs, you only get like 3 responses. Just keep applying, because it is tough out there, but the more you try, the better your likelihood is to get what you want.
Right.
So.
I actually remember when I was in college, I had a counselor come in and speak in one of my classes, and they said on average you should be sending somewhere between 10 and 15 resumes out a day.
A day?
A day, yeah. And I thought they were going to say a week or something like that, but it's incredible the amount of resumes you have to send out just to get that little bit of percentage response back.
Yeah. And when I graduated, it was right when the economy went down and there were no jobs. So I went for a position at the Cleveland Clinic because it's a huge organization, and I was luckily able to find a job, and that's where I stayed for 7 years. And yes, it wasn't direct experience to what I want, but it was good because I learned a lot and I evolved a lot as an employee and a coworker. And any job you work in, you gain valuable experience. So I was happy with it. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Anne. You've been very insightful. We'll have to catch up and see how you're doing with your master's in a little while.
Please.
We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back.
Coming up next.
Especially now, you can't just get a job sometimes with just a bachelor's degree. But at the same time, after I received my MBA, it was also hard to find my job because I was overqualified for things.
It's like a catch-22 almost. Welcome back. My next guest is Daria Coney. Could you introduce yourself?
My name is Daria. I graduated from St. John's University in 2013 with a bachelor's in public relations, minors in international studies, business administration, theater, and event management. And then I went on to get my master's in business administration, my MBA in marketing management at St. John's as well.
So were you a little busy during that time,
Just
maybe?
a little bit.
So did you have time for any internships or any outside experiences from school?
Yes. So during my bachelor's program, we had the opportunity to take internships for credit. So I took my first one, I was a PR intern at Sephora. And then a couple years later, I was a social media intern at Rich PR, which is a PR firm that represents lingerie brands. So that was different and away from the beauty side of things. So going into being a public relations major, I was interested more in beauty and fashion and kind of changed my ways since then. So those internships definitely helped me kind of steer my career an opposite direction than I originally thought it would go in, but
okay.
for the
So
better.
when you went into college, what did you expect to do upon graduation? What kind of jobs were you planning on applying for?
When I originally went to college, I thought I was going for a PR degree and that I'd also be able to go into musical theater and be an actress on Broadway.
Ooh.
That didn't happen, but that's okay. I kind of discovered my other interests and that I like them more. Also discovered that I really wanted to have a paycheck and a steady income and a better life. So I did theater on the side. I was doing this fashion beauty PR stuff, and I thought I was going to be a publicist or work for a magazine. And when I graduated from college, then it was very hard to find jobs. I was looking into theater companies as, working there as like executive assistants, or I don't really remember the title specifically, but they weren't what I really wanted to do, and I knew that I needed something more. So I had an opportunity offered to me to be a graduate assistant at St. John's and receive my MBA for free. So I worked 20 hours a week in the Alumni Relations office, and then I received my MBA in 2 years' time. And that was definitely the way to go, I would say. My parents were pushing me to get an MBA to back up the public relations degree, and I think that was very good advice. I would definitely suggest that to people in any career, especially now. Like, you can't just get a job sometimes with just a bachelor's degree, that the master's definitely helps. But at the same time, after I received my MBA, it was also hard to find my job, any job, because I was overqualified for things, as you mentioned.
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah, it was like a
It's like a catch-22 almost. So how did you find the experience of working at the Alumni Association?
So working in alumni relations at St. John's was so beneficial and so awesome, and you just meet so many people in so many different capacities. I was, over the time there, I was offered this kind of opportunity to take control over different constituent groups. So I was in charge of all of the young alumni events, all of the student events that my office put on because of my age and because of my closeness to those people. And I really helped the Alumni Relations Office bring in a lot more people to their events, and I thought that that was helpful for me and them, so it worked both ways. And it was also fun for me because I got to network at those events with older people or older graduates who were more set in their careers already and gave me some good advice and opened some doors for me. And just being in that office for 2 years, working there, actually brought me to get my job that I have now. So
okay, great. So when you were working there, did you find that you wanted to apply to jobs after leaving to be in different school alumni associations, or perhaps stay at St. John's?
Yeah, so I really wanted to just kind of stay in my role, but take the next step from a graduate assistant to assistant director at St. John's in alumni relations, and the school just wasn't hiring at the time. So everyone was kind of grooming me to take on this role, and I never got it. So I was like doing all this practice and getting all this experience of organizing these events and connecting with people throughout the country who went to St. John's, as well as just in our city, and it just never happened for me. But I had all of that experience that I was able to apply to other schools in their institutional advancement and alumni relations departments. And so I was going on interviews for those places, and I really felt comfortable in a lot of the interviews, but then afterwards, they were taking too long to get back to me, or I just needed to find a job, I needed to find a place to live, or it just wasn't the right fit. So luckily, because it all pays to know people, I was in alumni relations, and my one of my supervisors worked with my current boss at St. John's in the alumni area. So he had passed my resume on to him, and I went for an interview. They called me. I didn't apply. I didn't know about the organization. And I went for an interview, and 2 days later, they called me to offer me the position. And I was like, oh, I don't know if this is really what I want to do, because what I do now, I work as a development coordinator at a nonprofit organization. It's actually sister organizations. One is called Futures in Education, and one is called the Catholic Foundation for Brooklyn and Queens. And I do a lot of the marketing and PR and events for both organizations. But when I was originally offered the position, it was not really what I was planning on doing. But just because of the nonprofit thing, that kind of scared me a little bit. But I'm doing it, and I love it, and yeah.
Great. And so how long have you been there?
I started the last week in August, so I've been there about, I guess, 2 months.
We're going to take a little break. We'll be right back.
Coming up next.
I think also women just are very held back in that front, where you know, people think that certain jobs are for men, and you have to show yourself and prove yourself.
The reason you got this job was through the experience or the job that you had while you were still at St. John's.
Definitely, and networking, and just showing that you have the ability to do all of these different jobs and tasks that are given to you, and you know, never think that something is beneath you. Like, I was filing, or like, you know, doing really menial tasks in
Coffee runs.
alumni relations in the beginning, but then they saw my ability, and they gave me more tasks to do, and I had full ownership of these events that towards the end of my time at St. John's I was doing. And I think that really proves to people, if you go above and beyond, that proves to your supervisor that you are willing and able to do that.
So you spoke a little bit before about when you were interviewing for positions and either it wasn't a right fit or they weren't getting back to you. Could you tell me a little bit about when you were actually in those interviews, what the employers were saying in terms of your resume, your experience, how they thought that you would be able to fit in that position?
So a lot of the interviews I was going on, I went on a lot for universities and institutions for their development side of things, which is what I'm doing now and what I was doing in alumni relations. I think the thing in those interviews was some thought, or some wanted me to have more experience that I didn't have, because it was more like asking people for money and major gifts, and I had never done that, so I didn't really have that experience in the interviews. And then I also had met with a couple of recruiters, and they had me going on interviews at financial firms that I really didn't have any interest or experience with. And you know, they would ask me, where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you see yourself? And I was like, in my head I was like, not here. You know. And so I think that they just didn't work out, because you know, a lot of people got back to me and were like, oh, we think you're more interested in marketing or creative, which is, that's what I want to do. You know. And I want to be able to work with people and not just answering the phones and seating people in conference rooms, you know, because I feel that I have a lot more experience and ability than, you know, I have that opportunity for me already paved out for me. So
yes, I've noticed a lot. The favorite question is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Personally, I see myself on a beach drinking margaritas, but that's not going to happen, you know? And so I've also noticed that they say, well, I think your passion is in writing, or I think your passion is still in journalism. But then when I go to the interviews for journalism or for writing, I don't have enough experience. It just seems like you're kind of always in this windmill, but you were able to catch a really great break.
Yes. I also noticed in those interviews, you know, they were saying like, oh, you don't have any calendar management skills. And I was like, well, as you said before, I was very busy in college and getting my graduate degree. I was balancing schoolwork, regular work, friends, social life, theater rehearsals that I was going to, I was balancing my own calendar.
Right.
So how can you tell me I don't have calendar management?
It seems like you have to put that on your
Yeah.
resumes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So what advice would you have for anyone who's about to be graduating or has just graduated and is kind of starting their job search?
Well, my junior year of college at St. John's, I took a course that was a PR portfolio class, and it was just for PR advertising majors, but I really think that everyone should do it. We basically just took any pieces of writing or work that we had ever done and put them into a booklet, into a portfolio, similar to, you know, what artists would do. They would put all of their artwork in a portfolio. I think many people in many different fields do this. So for PR, we had our press releases, things like that. I also have an acting portfolio where I have all of my videos of shows that I've been in my acting resume. I think that's something that's great that you can bring to an interview, a hard copy of, and people will see it and they'll be like, wow, you didn't have to bring this, but then they'll look at it and they'll say like, oh, you really do have good writing skills or something like that. So I think first off, that's great. Going to networking events, just meeting with people and asking them what they do and asking them if they have any advice for you. And a lot of times people are willing to help. Like I love when people ask me for questions on bettering their resume or, you know, who should I talk to about this in a company, you know. I think just like being very open and also just confidence, having confidence. Never say sorry to someone that you're not sorry. Like you shouldn't apologize. Don't, you know, I think also women just are very held back in that front where, you know, people think that certain jobs are for men and you have to show yourself and prove yourself. And I had an experience the other evening. I went to a networking event for St. John's for the business school, and I just went up to a group of older businessmen and I started talking to them, and then they were like, oh, you should join our Tobin Alumni Business Board. And I was like, okay. So, you know, things like that, some people wouldn't go up to a group of guys and just start talking to them about their experience, but I did, and I said to them, I was like, you need me on your board, and
there you go.
There we go. So,
got to be confident.
Yes.
Great. Well, congratulations on your new position. Can't wait to hear how it turns out. Thank you for joining us today on Woman to Woman TV. My name is Karina LaFries. If you have any questions or suggestions, please check us out on Facebook or Twitter. See you next time.